to a lot of people it is just a collection piece, just like a lot of other things people collect. But they all made to be used. They are not big bulky knives, they are pocket knife.
Yeah.
That is meant to be in your pocket at all times. Yes, something is easy, but it's not as easy as
Not as easy. Hey guys, welcome. We are in the knife shop of Mike Gavac from Gavko Knives.
Dude, we are in my garage.
Oh, your garage?
Yeah.
You didn't want to tell them that, did you? You want to say we're in like some far away knife studio,
maybe believe that I'm actually professional. I keep telling everybody, I'm just the guy in my garage. And very dirty garage. Welcome to my messception, because my mess has a mess.
Talk to us about how you, number one, how you ended up here in Florida, how you decided to get into knives before that, how you came to where you are as far as Gavko Knives.
Well, I think the knives, I always liked knives. I didn't have many growing up back in Slovakia. Even for a long time after I came here, I didn't have any. I was working and you need money for other things, but I kind of bought myself a couple knives. I always was using knives on the job. Come on, if you're a man, you're always gonna use knives. Most of us. And kind of found some of the cheap, to be honest, cheap Chinese stuff. I said, I like this, that's cool. But I think that applies to a lot of people. They change from this cheap Chinese to the American, and then better and better and better. And I always like outdoors, so I always had a bunch of fixed blades once I actually got to go outdoors, and started making sheets for them, slight modification, like changing handles and stuff like that. And it all kind of grew into the YouTube. Just showing people what I was doing, what I was collecting. And with all these little modifications, people were pushing you, when you gonna do this next step? When you gonna try this next step? It's you tried the next step and you did more and more and more, and it just somehow ended up making a folding knives. And this seems like a whole another universe. They seem really complicated. They're really not. It's just perception of it, and a lot of people make them more complicated than they really are. So people are when you gonna make a fold? I was I don't think I'll ever, that's not my thing. And then here I am, I dropped the fixed blades altogether, it's just not appealing to me anymore. I love them as the tools, but as a maker, just they're kind of boring to me.
When you talk about folding knives, these are things people actually carry around every day.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who collect them too.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is, as much as I want people to use them, just like I use my own custom knife, the reality is a lot of people collect them just because they appreciate, what goes into them, how they're made, the uniqueness of them, sometimes materials. So to a lot of people it is just a collection piece, just like a lot of other things people collect. But they all made to be used. They are not big bulky knives, they are pocket knife.
Yeah.
That is meant to be in your pocket at all times.
So if we have some folks in the audience that are maybe looking to get into knife making themselves, custom knife making, maybe see you as an inspiration, what are some of the things that got you started? How did you figure out how to do what you're doing now?
I did a lot of stuff on improvisation. A lot of things is common sense. I mean, you want to make knives, so the shape, you kind of have an idea how you have to grind things. You have to, in the beginning you can improvise with, you don't have to have a grinder. There's a lot of other things you can use. It's not all that hard to make a knife.
As far as figuring out the measurements, where the pivots need to be in order for the knife to work well, is this all stuff that you just sort of mathematically worked out yourself, or did it through trial and error? How did that come about?
It was more of a trial and error. I designed them, the folders I designed in the CAD design. The draft side is a free software where you can just you design the knife outside, and you place the pivot here, and you kind of just, even if you just study other knives, you kind of get an idea what rules you have to follow for it to work. So that the detent ball has to be in small distance from the pivot, then the outside of any part of the blade, so it never drops off the blade, which I've done that. You learn on the mistakes.
Okay.
You kind of have to know, like, you know, that the lock's supposed to be somewhere here and stop in there, or, you know. So, and in the design, the draft side, you can move things. So you can see the interactions between the hand and the lock, where the lock bar would be the lock bar. You can see the interaction of that, and you can mark yourself the detent ball, and so you kind of see if it's gonna work, if it's supposed to work on paper, or if it doesn't. Another thing is actually make it into reality then.
Would you say that learning CAD design is pretty critical if you want to learn how to make folding knives?
Not really. There's a lot of knife makers that don't do it. They kind of, there are certain rules that you can follow. They are simple. Like, I never studied, but there's like a trick people do with a little coin that they can do in the design. So like, they design the knife, they put the pivot there, they know roughly where the pivot is, and they can, based on the coin, like, mark their locations of the other aspects. So they can mark the location of the detent ball, they can mark the location of the lock bar cutout and the stopping. There are books about it. I've never read them, but there are really good books from like Bob Terzuola, you know, one of the masters of knife making. He has a book about it, and a couple other knife makers that have books about all these little old school tricks. I learned from the kind of newer school where I, you know, use the computer for it, and I can see it there. But it's really simple.
How much of that do you do freehand sketching before you?
I actually don't do any sketching.
Really?
Only sketching I sometimes do, but it's not really sketching. I was never big into. I can't draw. I draw stick people.
Yeah.
Only drawing you sometimes do is so like when I have those raw parts like that, and I want to do some like a one-off, and I put the knife together how it's supposed to be, I will just sketch with the magic mark on it, like kind of lines I envision in that knife. So then when I grind it, I have those lines there. I can go by that.
Okay.
That's pretty much the only sketching.
Okay.
I sketched maybe a few fixed blades back in the day on like little parts, but I'm really not a sketching guy.
But a lot of it, you still have sort of a vision in your head of what it's going to look like in the end. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. You have an idea of, because most of the ideas come, like I mentioned before, they come from modifying like previous model or something, or mix and matching of certain things of my other models, and you have this idea, oh, like I like this, but I would want different blade shape on it. You kind of have in your head, you know, all different blade shapes, what are the common blade shapes, and it's like, oh, I would want to see this handle with that blade shape, or oh, I would want to put this little scoop there, and you just put it down on there if you're designing something.
Yeah. As far as ergonomics of your knives, and I've held a handful of them here. Let's see here. Which one was I messing with before? Was it that one? I think it's that one. Yeah, this guy right here is kind of a smaller one and just really good looking. But this is the first time, by the way, that I've had my hands on any of your knives, and I'm super impressed. But as far as the ergonomics are concerned, do you look for ergonomic rules outside of your own experience, or is it mainly just how does this feel in my hand?
Well, I believe if something is designed well, it should work for almost everybody, unless you have like, you know, humongous hands and it just doesn't fit. If something doesn't fit because something is too small, it's not gonna work for you. Yeah. But you know, within reason, if something is designed well, it should work for almost everybody except the big hands. And if you would look at all my designs from you know, back when I started knives, I always had a finger choil. Yeah. Not very deep, so there is not big hump here, big, you know, corner point. Yeah. For comfort, always had this swoop here, and then on the beginning I used to have a little bulge here for security on the fixed blade so they don't fly out. That kind of transferred into like a secondary swoop here on the folders. It just looks a little better on design wise, but it's kind of gives you the same feature because it gives you the second little scoop here that can log your fingers in there. And always find it because it's the best secure grip for me, you know. I think that just naturally. Yeah. Once you have the finger choil there, it works. It locks your hand in. Yeah. But also I found out that even on my knives, even on the folders, even with this, you can still use different grips. Just like you would do with a lot of knives that don't have, you know, people love to call it bushcraft knives and stuff. I really don't like the labels. Yeah. But, you know, you can use different grips and it's still comfortable. Like, it doesn't interfere with the chisel level grip.
Yeah.
Even though it's, what some people would call tactical knife, I can use it like anybody will use a bushcraft knife.
Because it's still close enough to neutral that you can rearrange your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've heard when people say, I wish it was bigger because my hands are humongous. Why don't you hear that?
Yeah.
Especially, I don't like to make big knives, so most of my knives would be considered
small to medium.
Small to medium size, yeah. And especially because of, I always try to do as close to 1-to-1 ratio as possible.
Right.
So if my knife is 3 3/4, it will not have a humongous handle.
Yeah.
It's gonna have only like 4-inch handle.
Yeah.
So that knife can actually have pretty, not small blade, but the handle would be equivalent of some of the small knives that you're gonna often see.
Yeah. But you're looking for a visual aesthetic, something that appeals visually as a 1-to-1 kind of.
I think so. To me, it was always appealing when it's as close to 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Because it's balance.
It is.
It also comes to other aspects of knife making that I do is the symmetry. I like the symmetry. So it's like, I know, like for example, some people don't like screws, a lot of screws on the knives.
Yeah.
I like them, I don't mind them.
Yeah.
And I want them on both sides. Like you can make knives that the screw is on the one side and the other side is you either see just a tiny hole or not a hole at all.
Yeah.
I like it to be symmetric on both sides.
Okay.
Very often you're gonna see when people do designs on the show scale. Like if you, where's that? So there's one for example. Well, yeah, you forget the holes. Some people will do designs, and especially a lot of times in the production stuff, you're gonna see designs only on the show scale.
Yeah.
I always match it on my log scale.
Okay.
Symmetry again. I like that.
Yeah. So as far as that kind of moving from ergonomics into looks and aesthetics, what inspires you to do some of the sort of the flourishes that we see on this and some of the really interesting details on the spines and sort of the decorative stuff on the scales? What drove you to create, and even on sort of the inside of the handle there, all that stuff?
Experimenting. We, like with a couple of my friends, like we started, I wasn't really a customizer, but I've customized stuff for myself, and you change things up, right? From the norm.
Yeah.
And you experiment with things, like what can you do with materials, how can you make things look interesting. So like this, for example, if I do this, it's not just, I've done the cleans, where's the clean one? So when it's clean, it's just clean, right? It's a clean finish, and when you do the anodizing, it's gonna be only like the corners that are worn off. If I do this, it's gonna create another
little valleys.
Yeah, it's gonna create another dimension to something where there was no dimension before.
Yeah. When we talk about stuff that you do here in your garage versus anything that you have to send out of house, how much of this work do you actually get done here, and how much do you have to send away?
Only thing that I send away, when I'm buying the material, I buy it in the larger sheets.
Okay.
That goes straight to the water jet. The water jet cuts the profiles, the 2D stuff, just like this, you have rough profiles, spotted holes, and just the shapes. What that lets me to do, lets me to use the materials better, because you don't have to cut it. One other thing I do is I send the blades, when they come in, I have to clean up all the holes. All the holes have to be drilled and reamed to this, finish, because it's all rough from the water jet.
Yeah.
So I take the blades after I clean the holes and I send them off to the professional heat treat. One of the few steels is like it's been my favorite for longest was ABL.
Yeah.
One of the few steels that was actually developed for cutlery. For Gillette, for the razors.
Oh.
So it's like that's my favorite, and even the steel that I use now is just an offshoot of that. Actually, it's the same exact steel, but it's been nitrogen enriched, so it's a little better rust resistance.
Oh, okay.
It's just
a nice.
It's a simple steel, but it's very fine. It's my favorite, and unlike. Well, I use a lot of it, and I did a lot of testing. If you would see my older videos, like I've made big machetes with the, 10,000ths of an inch thick edges, and I was chopping with it, and it was holding. So it's like me personally, that's the steel I want to use. I love it. It's easy to work with. It's easy to resharpen. It was perfect. I've had the other stuff, the super steels. Not a big fan.
Yeah. Talking about sort of the finishing work you do with it, the colors, the anodizing, and all that. Tell us about how how you reach sort of the processes that you're using, why you do the type of anodizing you do, and sort of the designs and stuff that you get into in doing that.
Everything started off, a lot of things starts off as improvisation and using the tools you have available, right? It's probably with most of the craftsmen.
Yeah.
So you start off like with the small grinders, and a lot of things will be made around what your tool can do.
Okay.
And that all changes with how you upgrade the tools. And finishing, I always like the stone wash. Well, to put it simple, everything I put out, almost everything, is stone wash, just because it's the best to hide wear.
Okay.
It's the easiest to fix if I want to, refinish something for somebody, get rid of the scratches. It hides the wear and little scratches the best. I personally like it, the feel, how it feels. It's kind of like, it's not slippery and slick. It's not too rough. It's like, it has that kind of, I would compare it to like matte finish, flat. And same goes for the anodizing. Like when I do it, I make the colors flat, matte. It's not shiny. So it's not a fingerprint magnet, it doesn't scratches too easily, or when it scratches kind of hides it. I like colors, so you're gonna see me very often do crazy colors. I love green, I love blue, so you're gonna see me often do those. I actually rarely do like plain stone wash, even though I like it, but for the longest time I always felt like if I'm working with titanium, it's like a sin not to anodize it.
Okay.
It's like, it took me some like kind of forcing myself to just leave it alone, because there is also beauty in that plain titanium.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see me, and almost all the time if you're gonna see anodized stuff from me, it's always gonna have two tones to it. It's gonna have the base color, then stone wash, and then the second color. I always like that, you have two colors.
Yeah.
Like this one, I don't know if the camera will show it. Well, probably. So that's like, I call it Arctic gray, the base.
Yeah.
But if you look into it, the rest is bronze. All the high points, everything is bronze, and the best way is in the light.
Yeah. At this point, you're working with a lot of titanium. Are you going to be working with other materials in the future? Have you looked at trying other materials?
I've done some carbon fiber. I love carbon fiber, but it's messy. It's really itchy. Well, actually, better if I have one ready here. That's how I'm not excited. That thing's been sitting there like ready to be made into the knife. Probably like 3 months now. It's like the scale is already kind of roughly shaped and is ready to be, grinded into the shape of the knife.
But that's how not excited you are about finishing it.
I love it. Well, I carry one actually that is carbon fiber line lock. I love the material. I hate to work with it.
Okay.
Not to mention it's really nasty. You want to wear a respirator. It's really dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
There's the stuff that like if you breathe in, it's like breathing in asbestos.
Okay.
Like it can really cause damage to your lungs.
Yeah. So G10, you work with G10. What do you think about that?
It's very similar to that. Also very dangerous.
Okay.
Both materials are not hard to work with. They're actually really easy to grind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like titanium is a whole another league of how the material works when you're cutting it, when you're grinding it, drilling it, everything. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to work with. It's just messy. The dust goes everywhere, and you want to be careful with it. I like G10 a lot, especially when you sandblast the G10 afterwards. When you're done with the G10, you give it a light sandblast. It pops almost like a fingerprint. One of the really cool, probably my favorite material. I mean, I'm kind of a geek. Mm-hmm. So this is probably my favorite material I've ever worked with. I put on the knife. I did like inlays. Let's see if you know what it is.
Look at that.
It's a meteorite.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wicked.
That's cool. Another thing that was cool is when you have a like geeky side to you, the superconductor. I might have a piece there somewhere. Oh yeah, there's actually a piece of superconductor. You know what a superconductor is?
Kind of.
It's the the collider.
Yeah.
Well, that's that thing that shoots the atoms.
Really?
Electrons or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the conductor that makes it all happen.
Oh, wow.
And this happens to be from the one from, I think it was the Texas that was taken apart.
Oh, really?
That's a piece of it. That's the piece that was in the collider. Which is like, if you have the geeky side, like it's kind of that material became super popular because of that. Because there's a lot of people that have that geeky side, and they love that like backstory behind certain materials. Just like,
of course,
like there's a lot of, the mammoth ivory and that stuff. Like, in my opinion, people are not crazy about those materials because of how they look. It's just like that's 1 million years old or whatever. Like that's from outer space. That was in Collider. Like that's what people get, I think. And that like superconductor was super big thing. There are all kinds of like cool materials being put into the knives with the cool backstory. My favorite, which is because this is man-made, it's normal. There's no nonsense. It's just somebody put a work and made it. Is the Damascus, black Damascus. Mokutai. From there's a couple different people that make it. Essentially, it's a Damascus made out of titanium alloys. That black Damascus happens to be titanium alloys and also zirconium, so it lets you have the black layer there too. I just like it. It's I can have a lot of fun finishing it. It's quite expensive. People like it, and it's fun to work with, so I like it.
So here in your shop today, we've got a handful of your knives that we were able to look at. How often do you have like a bunch of finished knives in your shop?
Almost never. Once a year. When I'm getting ready for the blade show, I start like this because I always, when I make a knife, I put it on sale. Make a knife, put it on sale. Make a knife, put it on sale. It sells pretty quick. Luckily, I've been fortunate enough to have the demand. And I started last week, I think 2 weeks ago. I started, putting the knives aside for the blade show. I want to bring, decent amount of knives for the blade show, so I don't just have a handful and you sell a couple knives and then there's nothing to show for. I want to, bust jobs and have some decent selections there.
So you got about 8 here. How many do you expect to have at blade show?
I don't know. I'm hoping a lot, but because I want to bring
double this, a few more than this.
More than that. Okay. I'm really hoping for a decent amount there, like 20, 30.
So in order to bring a lot of knives to blade show, does that mean you have to hold off selling them online for a while?
Yeah. That means I had to bust this a couple months ago, so now we have something to live from. And I purposely started 2 months before the blade show. I can work with the time. Yeah. I won't end up 2 weeks before the blade show. It's like, I don't have any knives now. Yeah. Now I have to go super crazy.
Yeah. So to folks that follow your work and know your models and know what type of stuff you make, what can they expect to see at blade show if they're coming to blade show? What specific models or variants or whatever?
I will have tiger flippers and non-flippers. I will have leopards. I will have probably some Makos. I will have a bunch of one-offs, like real one-offs. So for example, like this, the drop point is like completely one-off, like it's not a model. It's the mix and match, and I made a knife out of it. But I like it, and it's kind of nice because it's even more unique than the model. So I will have a bunch of those. I want to have a couple of the fancy knives with the Damascus, Makos, Tigers, probably a Nurse. There is a small little one I call Nurse, a small little sheep's foot.
Mostly folders?
Mostly folders. I'm playing with the idea of putting at least a couple fixed blades, but probably something very simple, like just a paracord drop little fixed blade. That's my old EDC fixed blade model. Oh, nice. Something, just grind a couple of those. Should be releasing like a production knife. We should have a prototype on the blade show. There is a big Thrasher model. I'm coming up as a collaboration with the Balisong guys, the BRS, Blade Runner Systems. I don't know if you ever come across them. We know each other I'm not a Balisong guy, but we know each other for a couple of years now. We always talked about like doing something together. So they have the connections. It's outsourced, but good quality knives. I mean, most of the people are aware at this point. Just because it says made in China doesn't mean it's crap. There's a lot of good Chinese knife companies that are coming out in the last 2-3 years with really high quality stuff. So it's gonna be the first time second time something is outsourced, not made in the US, that I wanna, it's gonna have my name on it. That I'm curious about. It's a big I can show you the profile. It's like a big 4-inch knife, but because of how I do the try to do the 1x1, it looks big, but it's not that big in the pocket. It's like
Show that.
That's like a big knife. That's a 4-inch blade, but
Yeah.
when it's a knife, it's not a huge chunk in here. It's like it's nice, elegant pocket knife.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that I'm curious about. I'm kind of excited. Then we should have some other. I don't want to jinx anything, but there should be some more stuff like for the more affordable and like production stuff. And I have a crossed fingers for something.
You're working
big.
on something, something else pretty
I
big.
hope so. The hardest thing what most people don't realize when you're self-employed or you work for yourself, and especially if you're doing well, it's hard to like not fell off the wagon, so to say, or not fell off the horse.
Okay.
Because like, I made a knife yesterday, I don't have to make a knife today. It's so common, and it's like you have to want to work, because you don't have to, but you should. Because if you don't, you're lazy. So and that people underestimate how hard it is, and a lot of people in general in all the other businesses fail because of that, because you don't want to work when you don't have to.
You don't stay.
Even you don't have to, you should still work.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So if folks are following you either on Instagram or following you over to Facebook or wanting to buy one of your knives, because what I see right now is when you put something up for sale on Instagram, it seems like 5 minutes later somebody's bought it.
It sells rather quick. Yeah, the best way is if you're following on Instagram, there's a feature that you can turn on the notification for certain people, and so your phone would ring if I post something.
Got it.
It's not every ring is me posting something for sale, but usually I announce it, like when I finish a knife, I will say like, oh, this is the knife that I'm gonna list tonight, and it's always around like 8 p.m. Eastern Standard
So you
Time.
give folks a little heads up.
Yeah, I give them a heads up, and then when I actually post it, when I make it available in the store, I post like, it's on, it's available. And then I didn't do it before, but I realized that I can just go back and edit it. So if it's sold, I will actually re-edit the post and it's like it's sold, so people don't waste their time if it's sold already.
So for folks who want to get into one of your knives, want to get a sense of what they're going to spend, what do the knives usually go for?
They start about 8 and go up.
Okay.
Most of the time lately it's been around 850 that I've been listing the frame locks for, and it goes up. Like the Damascus ones are pricey. If you ask me, 7 years ago, that let's buy this $120 paramilitary too. I was like, what, are you crazy? No way, I'm not buying $100 knife. Look at me now. This is a $4,000 knife there on the wall, rusting. I'm not kidding, man. I have to show you.
Okay,
we have to show this one. It's not my knife, but it's just gorgeous. It's the most expensive knife and most gorgeous knife, even though it's rusty, in my collection, and it's a fixed blade.
Oh man.
Dan Keffler. I don't know if you ever heard the name. He won I think I have the chopping competitions a bunch of times.
Okay.
Now he's like head to head with one newer guy. They're really good. And he makes beautiful knives. That's all titanium, like hand forged titanium and mokume and forged 3V.
Wow.
It's a gorgeous knife.
Wow.
He makes big katanas too, and like really beautiful swords that work.
Yeah.
He has videos of like chopping with one of his big swords, like chops like a 6-inch tree in one hit. It just falls down. He's he makes a badass knife, and he knows how to use the cutting tool. Yeah. It's like that combination. He's a monster.
All right, man. Well, we've seen some awesome knives here and heard some good stories about sort of how this stuff is made. And to pick some of it up, like you said, follow him on Instagram, because that's where you're going to get a heads up on how to buy stuff. So,
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you, bro.
All right, y'all. We'll see you soon.